1 because that was 9. So he said, well, I'll play RD1 and anti-RD1, or the opposite to RD1. But the problem is there's no reason for a shoe to favor one or favor the other. So it's not like if you're choosing between 40 and F. You choose F if it's streaky, and you should choose 40 if it's choppy. But RD1 doesn't quite work that way. So, I mean, it was a good idea, and it is a reasonable way to play, but in the long run, as players are finally figuring out, it's a break-even. It's really a mechanical system, and it's a break-even way to play. He would be better off doing table selection if he's going to play RD1, and just selecting streaky tables and play it on streaky tables. He does. Dave told me, who went through his course, that he does say to look for the oldest tables, the tables that have been played the longest when you walk into the casino, because they're likely to be the ones that are the most streaky. Just like new tables are likely to be choppy, but that's not an always thing. You know, it's a very rough rule of thumb. And the other thing that he believed in, which I tried my best to talk him out of, I couldn't, is he believed that if you lost at a table, you should stay at the same table and double your stakes. I can tell you for an absolute fact that's the worst thing you could do. If you lose at a table, kiss that table goodbye, don't go back. There's a reason you lost, and you're probably going to lose the next shoe too, so the last thing you want to do is double your stakes and stay at the same table. He was a good guy, but he was a little wet behind the ears still. Maybe if he tries it again, maybe he'll be more successful. But we're going to do modes, because I think that's where everybody has the biggest problem with NOR, is figuring out what mode to be in. But let's just talk about RD1 first a little bit, because one of you mentioned that might have been a good system for last night, and I might have. I didn't really look at the shoes versus RD1. But RD1, you can't get any simpler than the rules of RD1. You strictly bet repeats, except you always bet twice under a 1 in a row. You always bet repeats. So like right here, well, what's the difference?
You can peel it off, Alex.
Yeah. We all know we're going to talk about modes anyway. The whole idea of RD1 is it's very similar to the time before last, not opposite time before last, but time before last. Time before last is simply playing. That was a player, so you're going to play player. Whatever occurred 2 hands ago, that's what you're going to bet. And the nice thing about time before last is at the end of the shoe, you have bet just as many repeats as there were repeats, and you have bet just as many opposites as there were opposites, within 1 or 2. So you're betting opposites and repeats in proportion to the shoe. So that's, in a way, that helps. It helps a little bit. The problem with time before last is the same problem that we have with odd, and it loses every bet to the turtle twos. And I've said for years, a system is no good if it loses to the terrible twos because they're too common. But the only reason that doesn't completely disqualify ad is because you're net betting. So yeah, you're losing to the terrible twos, but you're now losing a lot to the terrible twos, like you do with time for last. You lose every bet you make to the terrible twos. But with RD1, if you really wanted to play the problem with RD1 is it loses to sporadic ones. Because when you get a 1 in a row, you're going to bet twice under this 1 in a row. So every a sporadic one is a single one, this one little one all by itself. And you might have a 1 there, and those are the sporadic ones. And RD1 does not like the sporadic ones because you're always wasting 2 bets under every 1 in a row. But there's a way around that if you really wanted to play some RD1 a better way. And what you do is, instead of always betting twice under a 1 in a row, you look back to see if the last 1 in a row, was it sporadic or were there several 1 in a rows? Was it alone? And if it was alone, just bet once under the 1 in a row. Because now all of a sudden, it beats the sporadic ones. See? And so, and wait for it to go 2 1 in a rows, then bet twice under it. But that's a much better, it's a little more complex, and it needs a little practice. But that's a much better way to play RD1. Unfortunately, I never got a chance to teach Mark that trick. But okay, is there anything else on RD1? All right, let's talk about modes. Does everybody know the basic rules for 40, F2, and doing?
Yeah, for the tape.
For the tape, okay. 40 is very simple. It's virtually the opposite of RD1. 40, you're strictly betting opposites. That's why 40 likes a choppy shoe, because you're primarily betting what the shoe likes. Opposites. But you can't sit there and bet opposites forever, because you'll lose to every straight run. And almost always, even in choppy shoes, you're gonna have like 2 or 3 straight runs, and you're gonna lose every bet. So 40, what it does is it bets opposites until there's a straight run, and then it picks a time to do either of 2 things, either to bet on the run or stop betting altogether until the run ends. Both are good. It's just a question of how many runs you're seeing. If you're seeing an awful lot of runs, then I'd have to ask you why you're playing a chop system. Why are you playing 40 if there's a lot of runs? But usually you're better off to either go on the run after 2 losing bets or after 3 losing bets. The problem with going on the run after 1 losing bet is then you're playing the time before last, which loses to the terrible twos. So it's either after 2 losing bets or after 3 losing bets. Once in a blue moon, we'll go after 4 losing bets. This is when we see a super, super choppy shoe where we just aren't seeing any runs at all. There you might as well just continue betting opposites and wait till you maybe lose 4 in a row, and because you probably never will if it's that choppy. Wait till you lose 4 in a row and then stop betting until the run ends. So that's all the ways there are playing modes, which seems to confuse everybody. There's only 2 modes. for all three, they're the same for all three systems. You either go on a run after losing 2 bets or after losing 3 bets. And I'll tell you the best way to do it. Yeah, SAT is a real good system. We won a hell of a lot of shoes playing SAT. And you can count all of the events and do a SAT can't count. But it'll end up the same way if you simply look and see, well, every time you bet 2 losing bets, when you get to 2 losing bets, look back last time you had 2 losing bets. What would the 3rd bet, which way would it have won? Should I have bet it on the run or should I have bet it against the run? And just go by that at the beginning of a shoe. And then later on you can go by which side would that 3rd bet have won on most of the time, and just go by that, and then you don't have to do a SAP chart. You can, and it comes out exactly the same way.
Do we want to do a game, Ellis?
Yeah, for 40?
Yeah. Can we write it in for you?
Let's do a game at least until we get to a mode. That one, well, no, that one's not good. Has anybody got a choppy shoe? Fairly choppy shoe. Just make one up. Just like go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or something like that.
Anybody got one handy or not?
I got some up in the room with them.
Sorry.
Shoe?
Yeah, I find, when I'm playing this, I keep a set down.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
And I find it valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, sometimes it just screams out at you.
It's invaluable information. You gotta come up with that information.
I got a choppy shoe.
Well,
It just-
it's a question of what's the easiest way to come up with the same.
I mean, doing the set down.
If you're used to it, that's fine, you know.
It just, there are some bets I'm ready to go all in. That's just so sure it's gonna win, you know?
I know, it's amazing how it
I'm the
works.
same way. I mean, I think that's one of the most critical elements of winning in this game, is keeping that count.
Have we
you keep
discovered
it,
that, I
it's
guess,
just-
what was it, 3, 4 years ago, SAP?
More than that,
More than-
before I came along.
Yeah, it was Andre, working close with Andre, I came up with this thing about counting the 1s and the 2s and the 3s and that
I
accordingly.
actually went through
Okay.
I still don't. I know they.
System 40 is simply going to get opposites until it loses 2 bets in a row, and then it might bet another opposite. 1, 2,
Right, right.
Let's see, this was last night's shoes, it was
1, 2. Now, I say this, when you're starting out a shoe with System 40 and nothing's happened yet to tell you what mode to be in, just start in mode 3, because mode 3 beats all 1s, all 2s, and all 3s. And that's 87% of all events. It's pretty hard to lose if you're winning 87% of all events. So start in mode 3 until the shoe tells you otherwise, which means you're going to make your 3rd bet. If I went to here, it would be mode 2, because I'm going on the run after 2 losing bets. If I go to here, I'm automatically in mode 3, and it says I'm going to go on the run after 3 losing bets. F is the same way, except with F, you're only talking about runs on the other side of the side you're betting on. That's really the only difference. So, okay, there we are with 40. 1, 2, 3, back to 1, 1, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Now mode 3 is working for me here. I'm winning the 3rd bet all the time. I'm not going to change that until I lose that 3rd bet. If I lose that 3rd bet, then I'll go to mode 2. One, two, three. Okay, now I'm facing a situation. I won my third bet, I won my third bet, I won my third bet, I lost my third bet. So what do I do? Well, there have not been any 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in rows in the shoe. There haven't even been any 4 in rows.
That was your first 4.
4. There haven't been any 4 in a rows in the shoe. So am I gonna bet on a 4 in a row in a shoe that has had no 4 in a rows? Probably not, you know. So what I would do is just skip that bet altogether, all right? And I would wait for a winning play, just skip this bet, and then wait for a winning play. That one loses, that one loses, that one loses, that one loses, that one wins. I'm back in the game, but I'm still not gonna go with a 4 bet, I'm just gonna get back in the game with a 1 bet. And that's a good way to play forward. There.
That's a good way to play 40. Not a lot of guys do it that way, though, but that saves a lot of games.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're playing 40 because the shoe is choppy. So, in a way, runs are the enemy, and you're trying to hit when you make that one. Oh, I didn't talk about how long to stay in a run either. You're trying to make that 1 bet on a run, but if there simply aren't any runs, don't even bother with the OTR bet, the on the run bet. Just skip it all together and wait for another opposite and start playing again.
You know, Ellis, one thing that we saw last night too, and you know, we were having a couple beers too and having some fun too, but one of the things that we were missing in the games that we were playing with respect to this here with, you know, bet 0-0 bet in 40 is patience. You know, sometimes we all lose our patience. And you know, it's the casino doing it to us too. You know, we get caught up in the excitement. Everybody's here, we're having a beer, and we want to bet.
Yeah, everybody's coming off the airplanes.
Yeah, everybody's coming off airplanes, and you know, I mean, we're not playing black, but still, you know, it's still real money when we're out there.
Yeah. We should have quit at -8.
Right,
You know.
exactly. We got to have patience.
And although, boy, I'll tell you, when you're having to change systems as often as we were last night, the very best thing to do is leave the casino. It really, I mean, there's many a times when I was playing full time, I was playing for high stakes, where I would just get to the casino and nothing good was going on that day. I'd go out on the boardwalk and go walking for 5 miles or go swimming, or, although going swimming in Atlantic City is not the best idea. But we get some beads in you. But just walk away from it, you know. You're not going to have a good day every day. The important thing is to know the difference, you know when you're seeing beatable shoes and know when you're seeing non-beatable shoes.
Hey, Ellis, on there, when that 3 did not win, on that third right there. Now, the next time that would come up, would you automatically go to mode 2?
Yes. I go to
Even
mode 2.
even though mode 3 won 3 in a row?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that. It's almost like the shoe has no memory. It can't remember what it did way back in the beginning, but it sort of can remember what it did
So
recently.
you make your mode determination off of the last mode?
Yeah, and then if that's wrong, if it turns out to be wrong, then I'll go to the one that would have won the most. But I like to, if that last run puts you in mode 2, I like to play mode 2 at that point. Now the question is when you do go on a run, let's say we played this, we went on this run. So I'll go 1, 2, 2, 3. Now the question is, what do I do here? Do I stay on the run or do I not stay on the run? Well, if I'm in mode 2, I like to give the run one more shot, just one. Although last time I wished I'd have given it about 7 more shots.
Yeah, we did bring that up. I think that was,
And it went to 11 or something.
yeah, there was no reason we should have got off, but.
But, you know, I mean, those things are gonna happen. But in mode 2, this is mode 2 because I went on the run after 2 losing bets. I'll try that bet. It's only a 1 bet anyways. So I'll try that bet. But if it loses, next time I'm only gonna stay on the run for 1 bet. And if I'm in mode 3, I always stay on the run for only 1 bet. Because you got so many opportunities, if you're in mode 3, you came on the run at this point. So if you only stayed for 1 bet, you would also win that bet. But if you didn't, this would be a 1, 2, 3. In order for you to lose your 3 bet, it would have had to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row. So how many 8s do you see? You know, granted, you see them, but you don't see them often enough. You're just better off going back off the run that's due to end. You're better off going back. You can often, granted, you maybe with a 1 extra bet, but you can often come off the run and win that bet too. So it's really the same either way. You get a chance to win at 2 bets in a row there. And that's really about all there is to 40. And 40 happens to be almost the exact opposite of F1. Of RD1. Now, I'll tell you one other system that I played an awful lot is to simply net bet opposites versus repeats. In fact, we almost put that in NOR instead of OTP4L. It accomplishes the same thing as OTP4L and probably does it slightly safer than OTP4L does. But it would have been the only net bet shoe in the system. So given the choice, I picked OTP4L because it wasn't net betting. And that would mean you wouldn't have to learn net betting just for the sake of one system. But that's also a good way to play it. When you're looking at runless shoes, you're looking at OTP4L. You're not seeing a lot of runs, either straight or zigzag. You can play OTP4L, but you can play net bet OTP4L versus TP4L. But the nice thing about that is you're in the situation, do you make a move after 2 losing bets or after 3 losing bets? And you just go by what would have worked the most often. When you get a 12 in a row, when you're net betting time before last versus opposite time before last, you're not going to keep betting against the 12 in a row. The prog that's on the 12 in a row is going to keep going until it loses. But the other one, you're going to either quit after 2 losing bets or 3 losing bets. It's just like mode 2 or 3 again. But when it quits, the prog that's winning just stays on the run and bets all by itself. Sometimes I'll even drop the offending prog for the rest of the shoe. If the shoe starts highly favoring either opposites or repeats, then I'll just drop the offending prog. But that's also a very good system to play. But you kind of
in a shoe where you're not seeing a lot of runs, so you're not gonna be betting a pose very often. It's virtually a sure winner. And today, we're seeing more runless shoes than ever before because the casino comes to the realization that they do the best on runless shoes. So, you know, if they can reduce runs from 20 in the rows down to 7 in the rows, they can reduce them further from that, and that's what they're trying desperately to do, because they realize runless shoes, they always win. Whenever we play OTB4L, I can guarantee you'd be the only winner at the table. The same is true with net betting opposites versus repeats. You'll end up being the only winner at the table. And you can, the nice thing about OTB4L is that at least you're on the top of every run. You start betting, you come up with a question of whether to bet on the run or not, one play later. So only half as often as you do with system 40. And that's what makes OTB4L a good system. You see a lot of 2s, 3s are okay, single 1s are okay, but the big thing is 2s. If you see a lot of 2s, OTB4L. So a lot of 2s is OTB4L, where a total lack of 2s, the best way to play it would be in. Lack of 3s, all of our North systems do well with a lack of 3s. Somebody posted, who was supposed to be here, I don't know. Somebody posted the other day at shoe where all 3 North systems did, he said they did over plus 20 in the same shoe.
Was that Johnny that couldn't come in from Arizona? I don't know. John?
Yeah. I get mixed up between usernames and their action.
Okay.
I just use my action names. It makes it easy. All right. Back to modes. Is there anybody that doesn't understand now what modes are? It's strictly, you go on a run after 2 losing bets or 3 losing bets. It's all modes are about. And if you go on after 2 losing bets, try at least once, try staying on the run for 2 plays instead of only 1 play.
You know, Ellis, we got to point out with on the run, it also means zigzag runs too.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that may be something to,
Absolutely.
you want me to put another blank up?
I can do it.
Okay.
Let's just draw out a zigzag. When you're playing, if you're playing 40, you're automatically on a zigzag run, so it's not a problem. So this has to do with OTB4L. Let's just start here. So this is going to go 1, 1, 2. This is opposite time before last. Now I'm going to tell you a little kind of strange thing about opposite time before last in a second. But now we got to decide. I mean, zigzag runs, although every boxer book in the world tells you something different. Zigzag runs occur just as often as straight runs do. I mean, one is a run of opposites, the other is a run of repeats. They're exactly the same number in the long run, so they all occur at the same frequency. I'll tell you why. Books and websites talk about that. But here we're looking at going on a zigzag run. It's the same thing. If you go on the zigzag run after 2 losing bets, you're in mode 2, and after 3 losing bets, you're in mode 3. In mode 2, you want to try and stay on the run for 1 more bet, and in mode 3, you just stay on the run for 1 bet. Not that that's always going to work, but it works more often than not. And that's what really vodka is all about, is doing what works more often than not. I gotta show you something. When you play OTP4L, I still have guys that go back to the hand before last and say, okay, that's a player, the opposite of player is bank, so I gotta bet on bank here. You don't have to do all of that. When you bet OTP4L, bet opposite after a repeat, and bet repeat after an opposite, and you're playing OTP4L. It works out to the same exact thing. There's no difference. So all you gotta look to see was the last play at opposite or a repeat, and you automatically know which side to play. Very, very simple. That's the simplest way to do it. Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you. I have a question at this moment in time.
I was hoping so.
It seems to me, and it's probably my brain working right now, that the most difficult thing, and it's talked about on the forum all the time, is deciding when to make a decision to change.
Modes.
Modes.
Or systems.
Systems. Or both, you know what I mean? When do you say, okay, well, system 40 is really not working, you know, and there's been discussion about overlay and some other things. And I'm just wondering if sometime during the day, not right now, just sometime during the day, we could put up a blank scorecard on the wall, and rather than circling all the bets that won,
Yeah.
just start from the beginning.
And say which system.
And say, what would you do? And I'd like to hear Keith and you say, you know, what would you do and
You don't
why?
have to.
What's that? But would that be helpful to anybody besides me?
Yeah, I was kind of doing that
Okay, good,
actually,
good.
but, so what, it's 11. It's 11 now. How about if we took like a
12.
Oh, yeah, I mean, okay, so it's 12 now, so